Step 1. Before starting sit to a pile, review sit at your side while walking your dog on lead. Cover the verbal and whistle sit commands just as you did during collar conditioning. Look to get a high level of execution here before moving on to the next steps. Step 2. Place a bumper on the ground and have your dog sit a couple of yards from it. Place yourself next to the bumper and then throw your arm down toward it and say fetch.
Sit. Good dog.
As soon as you say fetch, say sit. If your dog sat quickly without picking up the bumper, offer them praise. If they didn't, make corrections and say sit until they stop and plant their butt, even if they pick up the bumper. Then repeat the procedure until they obey the command with urgency. If your dog fails to fetch on command, shift gears and seize the opportunity to force without stopping them in the process. Step 3. Put out a pile of bumpers and mark it with a white stake. You can use the same location that you used for force to a pile or choose a new location if you wish. Have your dog sit beside you facing the pile, which should be about 20 yards away. Toss a bumper to the pile and send your dog with the command back to make a retrieve. Send your dog to the pile a couple of more times in the same manner to finish establishing the pile. Step 4. Have your dog return to your side facing the pile and take delivery of the bumper. Next, leave your dog in place and move your handling position halfway between them and the pile and 5 yards back from your dog's line of travel to the pile. Step 5. Toss a bumper to the pile, then throw your arm out toward it and say fetch. As your dog moves past you, move back to your dog's starting position to prepare to receive them and take delivery of the bumper. Then, leave your dog and return to your handling position to continue. You may need to toss a bumper to the pile for the first several sends to get your dog accustomed to the routine. Step 6. Once your dog has momentum going to the pile, you can begin stopping them en route to the pile. After taking delivery of the bumper, return to your handling position and cast them to the pile. Once they've taken a couple of steps, say sit.
Sit. Now you must instantly assess your dog's reaction to the command. You should feel as though your dog sat with urgency. If the speed and execution of the stop and sit is less than urgent, simultaneously make a correction and say sit. It's very important to make the correction before your dog completes the task of stopping. If your dog put the brakes on and sat quickly, give them praise. After a brief pause, cast your dog to the pile to retrieve a bumper and meet them back at their starting position to take delivery. Continue to repeat the procedure until your dog stops crisply every time you say sit. In order to maintain momentum, regularly send your dog through to the pile without stopping. Try to avoid barking the word sit. It's your dog's responsibility to listen attentively for the command at all times. When issuing it, use a typical conversation tone of voice.
Step 7. Once your dog is stopping well in the previous step, begin asking them to stop 1/3 of the way to the pile. Before moving on to the next step, look to attain a very crisp stop and sit by making corrections when your dog doesn't meet the standard and giving them praise when they do. Step 8. To increase the level of difficulty, change your dog's stopping position so that they're halfway to the pile. It's at this step that your dog must turn and face you squarely when they stop. If they fail to turn fully, simultaneously make a correction, bow and blow a 2-blast heel whistle. As soon as they square up, stand up straight and say sit.
Sit.
Be sure you maintain this standard throughout the remainder of the drill and the program.
Sit.
When your dog stops consistently, turns and sits well, you can move on to the next step. Step 9. Cast your dog to the pile and stop them twice en route at 1/3 and 2/3 of the way to the pile. Step 10. Cast your dog to the pile and stop them by saying sit when they're close to the pile. Step 11. In the next couple of steps, move your handling position back to your dog's starting position. Then, send your dog from your side and ask them to stop when they're only a couple of yards from
Sit.
you. Remember, when you tell your dog to sit, they need to put the brakes on, spin around completely with their entire body, plant their butt, and look at you. Address any substandard behavior with appropriate, well-timed corrections. Step 12. Begin stopping your dog a little further away from you and closer to the pile. Start at the 1/3 point, followed by the halfway point, then twice en route at the 1/3 and 2/3 points, and finally close to the pile. Don't jump to the next stopping point until they demonstrate an urgency to stop at the current level of difficulty.
Sit.
Move to the next step when your dog is
Sit.
able to stop crisply and consistently right next to the pile when you say sit. Step 13. Repeat the entire procedure from start to finish with the sit whistle. Continue to assess your dog's reaction to whistle commands and make corrections every time you see a substandard performance. If you make a correction, simultaneously say the word sit as opposed to blowing another whistle.
Sit. Sit.